How you guys doing? Today I'm going to be doing my best to explain to you the US soccer system, what tiers there are, how many leagues there are, and so on and so forth. So let's get right into it. By the way, it's featuring my dog that's like right there in the corner. So yo, you can look at him as well. So first in the tier, we have the MLS. On the MLS, there's 29 total teams. There's 26 that are actually in the United States, and there are 3 from Canada. Since it's been founded in 1996, there's been a lot of teams that come and go, but there are always expansion teams that are added into the league. For example, we had St. Louis City that was just recently, and now we're going to be looking forward to San Diego in 2025. So the league is divided into 2 conferences, the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference. Each club would play 17 games at home and 17 games away. And there are actually some of those games where the conferences mix a little bit and some teams play other teams from a different conference. It's a whole thing. So after the regular season is over, we have the top 7 teams from each conference that'll automatically qualify to round 1 of a best of 3 series. The next 2 teams in 8th and 9th place from each conference will play in a 1-match elimination game, also known as the wildcard game. Then the winners of the wildcard game will qualify for round 1 of the best of 3 series. So this is a bracket of the MLS Cup playoffs for 2023. As you can see here, like the best of 3 matches are essentially the round of 16. And you can see at the bottom that there are 2 wildcard games played by the 8th and 9th seed. So in this case, it's Sporting Kansas City versus the San Jose Earthquakes, and then it's the Red Bulls versus Charlotte. In prior years, the number 1 seed would play the number 8 seed, but in 2023, they changed the rule. So instead of the number 1 seed playing the number 8 seed, the 1 seed will just play the 8 or the 9 seed, whoever wins the wildcard game. The rest is the same. The number 2 seed would play the number 7 seed, the number 3 seed would play the 6 seed, and the 4 seed would play the 5 seed. And this is for each conference. So on the left side, the 2 seed in the West Conference is the Seattle Sounders. They would play FC Dallas. In the East Conference, it's Orlando City FC as the 2 seed, and then Nashville is the 7 seed. So hopefully I explained this part a little better. So basically there is the MLS Cup, and then within the MLS Cup, there are conference champions. So basically after the best of 3 series, you'll play in a quarterfinal match, and then those quarterfinal winners would play in the semifinals of the MLS Cup. Now, the semifinals of the MLS Cup is the finals of the conference, if that makes sense. So once you reach the semifinal of the MLS Cup, you've pretty much reached the final of the conference. Whoever wins that semifinal is the conference champion, and then the conference champion will qualify for the MLS Cup final. And then from there, whoever wins the MLS Cup final is the champion of the MLS in its entirety. There's also something called the Supporter Shield, where you win the Supporter Shield by having the most amount of points in both conferences, but no one really pays attention to that, so we're just not gonna leave it there. Hopefully everything I just said made sense. It does sound a little confusing the way I phrase it, but it just kind of makes sense in my head. So apologies for any confusion. Now there's a whole bunch of rules and regulations on like squad requirements, player slots, and things like that, salary caps. I'll get into all of that in a different video. But for now, let's continue. So also in the top tier in the US soccer pyramid, we have the NWSL, the Women's Professional Soccer League. So in the Women's League, there are 12 teams competing in the 2023 season. Each team will play 11 games at home and 11 games away. At the end of the regular season, the top 6 teams will go through the playoffs. Out of those 6, the top 2 will get a first round bye. Moving on to the second tier, which is the USL Championship. So it's pretty much the same thing. It's a 34 game series. Everybody plays everybody, 1 at home and 1 away. It's very simple. The top 8 teams are pretty much through to the playoffs, and they're rated in seeds 1 through 8, and they go through straight through bracket and play for the championship. Now in the women's game, there's going to be a new division added in the second tier, which is called the USL Super League. There's really no information on the Super League yet, but it's pretty much going to be straightforward. There's still actually teams being added as we speak. Logos haven't been made, team rosters haven't been made, so it's all brand new. So we're really looking forward to seeing that next year. Now we'll move to the third tier, which kind of gets confusing at this point if you already haven't been confused. there are 3 different leagues in this one tier, if that makes sense. So first up, we have USL League 1, which is 12 teams competing against each other in a nationwide conference. So there's no East and West conference. Everything else is pretty much straightforward in how they play and whatnot. Playoffs is the same and everything. If you guys actually want a little more information on the US soccer tier system, there's a link in the description to Matt Schauler's video. He is a professional soccer player in the United States. He played for Charleston Battery, and now I believe he plays for Hartford Athletic. And I found his video pretty informative and very interesting, so I definitely recommend to check him out. Okay, so there's 2 more leagues. First one is going to be called NISA, N-I-S-A. Don't know too much about this league, I'm going to be honest with you. All I know is that there's 13 teams nationwide, and the playoff format is pretty similar. But it's not really, I don't want to say known, but I don't believe it's that much followed or watched. But I am trying to do more research on it and look up more information. And then the third league is a rather new league. It's only 2 years old. It's the MLS Next Pro. MLS Next Pro is just 27 teams, East and West conferences. This is pretty much just teams from that used to play in the USL Championship or USL League 1 and are in this new league. It's pretty much like the MLS, but it's all B teams. So Inter Miami B, Columbus Crew B, NYCFC B, Red Bulls B, or Red Bulls 2, things like that. Then we kind of move to the 4th tier, which is pretty much like pre-professional or like amateur leagues, such as like the UPSL, we have NPSL, and then we have USL League 2, and there's a women's league for that as well called USL Women's League. I'm an official, so I have officiated these games, NPSL, USL League 2, UPSL, you name it, MLS Next, things like that. There's not a lot of information about in terms of contracts or league information. You can look everything up online at upsl.com, and there it'll show you the different conferences. I know that there are different regions and conferences. They don't necessarily play each other in the regular season, but there is a playoff for each specific region, and I do believe they travel for a national tournament. Just to use that example, the local MLS club here is Inter Miami. They have Inter Miami 2 that plays in the MLS Next Pro. They used to be called Fort Lauderdale CF that played in USL League 1. They have their MLS Next Academy team, and they have a UPSL team. It's just called Inter Miami Academy, but they play in the UPSL.